Greetings all, we're now having a look at US30 and we will start off our analysis on the H4 chart. And in regards to this particular chart, we can see that we had, if we can just go back a bit, multiple rejections at this point, right? Which explains why at this level over here, we saw price pushing further down to this trend line over here, which started at this point over here, right? And that is because, guys, whenever we have a third rejection in as far as a trend line goes, we expect price to move in the opposite direction all the way to the opposing trend line, right? As you guys can see at that point. I hope what I'm saying makes sense. And if I can just zoom in a bit, we can see that we had a first touch over here, right? And later on we had a rejection at this point and another rejection at that point as well, and we saw price on the third touch moving further up, right? So what does this mean, guys? What this means is that at this point in time, given that this was the third rejection and this being the second rejection, we expect price to at least move all the way to the 33400 level, and at this point we should be looking for potential selling opportunities. Why do I say so? That is because, guys, if I can just zoom out a bit, we can see that we had an M formation at that point, which has a neckline more or less at that point, guys. I just hope that my lines are not too confusing, but essentially what normally happens in regards to M structures, as you guys know by now, is that once price has broken the neckline to the bottom side, we expect it to head back to the neckline to test it, and at that neckline is where we would look for potential selling opportunities, as the anticipation is for price to move further down to complete that M structure, right? So as you guys can see, as I said, we have this M structure which has a neckline more or less at that level, right? And price broke to the bottom side of that neckline and then went back up to that neckline to test it and then push further down, right? So it may be that in the next couple of days or in the next day or so, we might see price push further up to this level to just retest that neckline of this, as I said, M structure. And at this point, we might then see price move further down, in which case it would give us a very nice M structure at that point, right? With this side being the first leg of that M structure and this side being the second leg of that M structure, right? I hope what I'm saying, guys, makes sense, right? To add to that, guys, just also bear in mind that one of the reasons why I say that we should potentially be looking to sell at this level is because we have this candlestick over here. It is a bearish candlestick with a small body and quite a long lower wick, and this tells us that we have a lot of liquidity sitting at this point. And as I've said to you guys in the past, liquidity represents money that needs to be triggered by the market at one point or another. To add to that, we have another candlestick at this point, which is very much similar to this one, and it too is carrying a lot of liquidity, right? And if you go to the lower time frames, such as the H1 or the 30-minute chart, you will see that at this level as well, we have another candlestick that is carrying a lot of liquidity at that point, right? So there's a lot of liquidity sitting down there, and as I've said, guys, it makes sense for the market to push further down to grab all of those liquidity points, and then we might potentially see price move up, right? But because, as I said, guys, we've had this M formation over here, ideally I would love to see price move all the way down to the 32300 level, right? Because that's more or less where that M structure started, in my humble opinion, right? So what else do we see, guys, in regards to the H4 chart of US30? At this point I don't see much, but one thing that is also very much important that I need to point out is that as much as we have this M structure over here, which has a neckline at that point, just bear in mind rather that if we can just zoom in, we have, or rather we had an inverted head and shoulders pattern at that point, with this being the left shoulder, this being the head, and this being the right shoulder, right? And this particular formation has a neckline also more or less in that zone, which is very much in line with the neckline of that huge M structure that I spoke about, right? So what this means, in other words, is that buying or selling at this point is a bit risky as well. So you just need to make sure that you are cautious and that you exercise good money management and discipline. Because as much as I said that, or rather, as much as I say that should price reach this point, we should be looking for potential selling opportunities. What may actually happen is that because we have, as I said, this inverted head and shoulders pattern, which has a neckline more or less, price may actually break out to the upside and then come back to the neckline to test it. And at this point is where we should then look for potential buying opportunities, right? I hope that makes sense. Let me just redraw it. So we have, just bear with me guys, we have this inverted head and shoulders pattern, with this side being the left shoulder, this being the head, and this being the right hand shoulder, and the neckline of that structure is at this point more or less, right? So we would then wait for price to break on the upside of the neckline and then for it to head back to the neckline to test it, and at that neckline is where we would look for potential buying opportunities. And our take profit, in my humble opinion, should be the 34,900 level. Why do I say so? That is because, guys, we also have this candlestick over here. It is a bullish candlestick with a very small body and quite a long upper wick, which tells us that at that level where we have that 34,900 zone, we have a lot of liquidity sitting there. And I've said to you guys that liquidity represents money that needs to be triggered by the market at one point or another, right? So just be careful, guys, in regards to buying and selling in this area, because depending on how things go, the market can move either up to that level to grab that liquidity, or move further down to grab all of these liquidity points that I spoke about, and from there we might then see another reversal of sorts, right? Nonetheless, that's my analysis in as far as US30 goes. I hope it makes sense, and just remember to like the content if you do indeed like it, and subscribe to the page, right? And if there are any other charts that you would like me to have a look at over and above the ones that I normally have a look at, just let me know and I will try my best to analyze them as well. Thanks guys, and peace out.